Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. Welcome. Welcome to our virtual hangout.
Welcome, welcome. We are super excited for our fourth and final education event of this month, our virtual hangout Progress, Not Perfection. So today we're going to work on creating some sustainable nutrition and movement goals. So we're really excited to dive in.
We are, and obviously, I am honored to share the screen with Aubrey Red. She is one of our culinary managers, and now leaning into so much of the education for Unite for Her. And she's going to share all of our expertise with you tonight, but she's also my co-host for this evening. So, Aubrey, thanks for joining me, and always glad to share the screen with you. Always happy to have the community jump in because I know a lot of them always speak with you and do a lot of different counseling and consulting one-on-one. So always so positive, already getting some hearts.
Oh,
Yeah.
love it. Love it. Well,
Yeah.
our education events, I think are so well attended. And we wanted to make sure it was one that could be interactive, right? And everybody can walk away with a little bit of something today.
No, January is the month.
It
January is
is.
the month. But
It
we
should.
want to make sure they're approachable, right? Like it just we say that often at Unite for Her. It's the 1% better. I love that goal. I just feel like it's a coaching goal for me back in my coaching days. But if we can just strive to be 1% better each day or each week, all of a sudden by 10 days or 10 weeks, you're 10% better than 20 days, 20 weeks, right? You just set those goals, and it's amazing if you can adhere to them, then it just makes you feel so much more in control. And it is validating. I know personally for myself as well, Aubrey.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes we get ahead of ourselves, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit today. And before I even get too ahead of myself, too, I want to, of course, thank our digital education sponsors because they really make all of this possible. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah.
Our virtual education events are presented through Unite for Her Connect by West, Merck, Lilly, Novartis, and Gilead Sciences with support from gold sponsors Pfizer, GSK, and Daiichi Sankyo, and our supporting sponsors Tercera Therapeutics and Veristem Oncology. So a huge thank you to our sponsors for making tonight and all of our UFH Connect events possible.
Yeah, we are so indebted to them. And we have the honor of always meeting with them every 6 weeks. They are our partners in so many different ways, education being one of them. We get to see them at our big conferences twice a year. And can I tell you, their patient advocacy group and just the area department of patient advocacy on the pharma side, they are committed. And I am grateful they have named us as a partner and a collaborator moving forward for the best care for our community. So yeah, a big shout out to them. Thank you, Aubrey.
Of course, of course. Little housekeeping. If you have not previously been on an education event, welcome. Welcome. We're happy to have you here. I know a lot of us are very familiar with Zoom at this point, but just throughout today, keeping yourself muted if possible. It's going to be an interactive session though. So I would say make sure you grab a pen and a piece of paper or have your phone handy with your notes app so you can work alongside myself and my co host today, who will be Priscilla Fitzpatrick. You can, of course, always raise your hand or unmute, ask questions in the chat. We will certainly have time to get to them. And we'll be recording the presentation. You can always view any of our education events, which are recorded, and they are uploaded to our UFH Connect library.
Quick, Aubrey. And then, of course, our reminders. So we have 3 events coming up in February. Hard to believe that February is right around the corner. Her speaker series is Thursday, February the 12th at 6 o'clock Eastern Time, Cardio Oncology with Dr. Hamad from Temple University. Then we also are going to have a virtual hangout on Wednesday, the 25th of February at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And that's Confident and Radiant. This is actually part 2. It was such a good segment. Makeup tips and brows, lashes, skin changes with Jolene Hart, who many of you may know. She is our beauty advisor at Unite for Her, has a host of different videos up on clean beauty and how to navigate that very difficult, sometimes challenging, consumer type of approach to buying the right products, along with Rebecca Cassio and Sarah Gabriel is actually one of our participants. They're going to be coming in from California, which is super fun, and we're happy to have them. And It was a very lively event that we had, so much so that we brought back number two. And then our last one is going to be an Ask the Experts on February the 26th at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. And that's understanding the spectrum of grief and loss and metastatic breast cancer with Cal Kate. So as you can see, we have a lot of different topics that we lean into. A lot of them the community shares with us. So please let us know, and you can put them in the chat. You can email us anytime at info@uniteforher.org. If there is a topic that you would love for us to cover, of course, check our Unite for Her Connect. I'll put that right in the chat. We have a very robust library of over 5 years of different topics and experts sharing the latest in our field. But please let us know if there's something we haven't covered, because that is important for us to get your voice heard and to find a session or a segment that resonates with you.
And I popped that link to UFH Connect in the chat for everybody. So
Sure.
many of you probably signed up for today's event there, but definitely take a look. Like Sue said, we have just such a robust library. So I always tell people if you have a question, I bet it's maybe been answered on one of our education events.
Yeah, I know. And we do watch that library as well. We take an intake to make sure that everything is relevant, up to date. Everything is still in line with the standards, the gold standards of cancer care and beyond. So just know that that is really looked at with a careful lens. A little bit about our run a show tonight. So Aubrey's going to take the stage first, and she's going to start with her foundation and SMART goals and some nutrition goals and practice. And then we're going to move over to Priscilla, who actually leads our Stronger Through Cancer program at Unite for Her, has been an incredible collaborator partner over the years. And I will tell you, has a beautiful following. And she's going to be moving and doing exercise goals with us, some guided goal settings. So we'll follow that out in the second half of the presentation. But I think we're ready to get started. I wanted to give it a little time because we had so many that
Mhm.
actually signed up for this one. But Aubrey, I think we're going to get started. I'm going to remove myself, and I'm going to start by doing your bio, which is always my honor to do.
Well, thank you very much, Sue.
Yeah. All right. If I can remove, I might not be a co-host anymore, am I? Oh, yeah, I am.
I
There I am.
gotcha.
I got it. Thank you. All right. So Aubrey Red, here she is front and center, has been with the Unite for Hearth culinary nutrition team, serving since 2022. She is our culinary nutrition manager. She is also part of just the 3% of Black registered dietitians that are in the nation in her role. She tries to improve this access to diverse care with her roles on various boards and as a member of the Unite for Her task force of women of color. At Unite for Her, Aubrey serves thousands of breast cancer members and ovarian cancer, assisting them on one nutrition needs, hosting group cooking demos, our plantuary. I actually saw somebody put that in the chat about plantuary. I think it was Jennifer. It's such a good program. I love it, Aubrey. You have such a wealth of knowledge, bringing that science into the nutrition. And then, of course, all of that is on our website. But Aubrey leads all of that. And she's been hosting a lot of our creative and culinary endeavors with the rest of our Unite for Her culinary team. So, Aubrey, I'm going to let you take the stage. Thank you for joining and having this wonderful topic for our community tonight.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you, Sue. And thanks everybody for taking some time to hop on today, especially because I know, at least here in Pennsylvania, it is a very cold and now, of course, getting dark because it's after 5 evening. So I'm glad that you took some time out of your day to focus on yourself, right? And your wellness. And so today, like I said, is progress, not perfection. And I want to start today by just going into a little bit of background around setting goals. We're going to be doing some goal setting and work with nutrition and with movement and fitness, but I think it's really important to lay the foundation when we're thinking about goals because I think, especially as a dietitian, and I'm sure Priscilla can speak to this as well too, is that I oftentimes see people get caught up in their goals for various reasons, right? And we want to make our goals effective, we want to make them successful, and we want to feel really good when our goals are done. So I'm going to go ahead, I am going to share my screen and we will dive in to progress, not perfection. You can see here small steps equal sustainable change, right? It does not need to be an overhaul. Now, this time of year, January, right? We're thinking about New Year, New Year's goals, New Year's resolutions. And I wanted to highlight that within the first 3 weeks of January, about 70 to 80% of these New Year's resolutions oftentimes fall off. And that's not necessarily because of anybody's fault or anything of that nature. There's a lot behind why resolutions often fail. First and foremost, I see so much of this very all or nothing thinking, right? I have to do everything or I do nothing. And I think when it comes to nutrition, we see that a lot, right? All of my meals for today have to be perfect. And if I make one quote unquote mistake, then my day is thrown off, right? Its trajectory. But it doesn't need to be everything or nothing. It can be just a few things or even just one thing. We oftentimes have either overly restrictive or even unrealistic ideals when it comes to our goals. Now, I think it's a great idea to say, oh, I want to, let's say, limit maybe the amount of takeout that I'm getting because I find that I'm doing it a few times a week. However, when we cut out all of the things we love or we make a drastic jump, let's say you're getting takeout 4 times a week and you're a really busy parent or you're really busy with, let's say, your treatment and you're tired. If you try to go from 4 to 0, that's a huge jump, right? It may feel unrealistic. We want to think about real ways we can move towards our goals in a slow progression without being overly restrictive because life is always going to have curveballs, and life is not life unless we're incorporating the things that we absolutely love without restriction, right? We shouldn't be restricting the things we enjoy. Now, in terms of this all or nothing thinking that we talked about, we also focus on perfection instead of consistency. So, same concept of, okay, I was doing great with my eating today, but I made one mistake, so it's all or it's nothing. It's that thought of kind of getting back up on the horse, right? I know I've been in this trap as well too, right? You get so excited and you want to do so many things and you say, "Come Monday, I'm going to do all of this." And maybe Monday goes well and Tuesday starts to fall off a little bit and then by Wednesday we're kind of back to where we were beforehand. But when we think about more sustainable goals, there are things that we can do consistently. So even if we make, changes or we have ebbs and flows in schedule in life, we still want to focus on being consistent with our goals. What I always say to anybody I'm talking to is that really every meal and truly every minute is an opportunity to try again and to continue to make improvements, right? We don't want to get caught up or bogged down with the negative of not achieving our goals. And so we just want to try each time we sit down to eat, or each time we get into the gym, or each time we lay our heads down to go to sleep, right? Depending on what your goals are, we want to try to make that consistent positive change, right? It could be one small thing, it could be one big thing, but the consistency is what we want to focus on. And of course, I think this is where a lot of us can kind of see some trouble is that motivation tends to fade, particularly when we have these huge goals because they feel daunting, right? They feel like tasks instead of things that bring us joy or are trying to get us to maybe an ultimate goal. We want to focus on habit building instead of, again, like we said, maybe restriction or these thoughts. We want to focus on building positive habits that will move us towards sustainable and lasting change. Now, thinking about moving out of this mindset, right, of these New Year's resolutions and goals, and thinking more from a long term and a realistic perspective, we want to focus first and foremost on the bigger picture. I see this all of the time when it comes to nutrition, right? Especially too with like particular foods and nutrients and this and that. It's really the bigger picture that we're focusing on here because health is built over time. It's not built overnight. As much as it would be so great if we could have the perfect meal and then the next day wake up and our health goals were achieved, we really want to focus on this long term, right? We're thinking about longevity, we're thinking about bone health and heart health and reducing chronic illness, risk of recurrence, progression, etc. It's that long game, right? Not the short game that we want to think of. We absolutely want to start small. The smaller the goal, the better. I oftentimes will encourage people to set goals that are things that they already are maybe inconsistently doing, right? So let's say a couple times a week you eat a fruit, but some days you don't eat a fruit. Setting a small goal to eat a fruit 5 times a week when you're already having fruit 3 times a week feels much more achievable than saying, I'm going to have 2 fruits a day every single day, right? That's a big jump. We want to start small because these small goals, they add up over time. We also want to go slow. Same concept of building here. Consistency beats intensity. Thinking especially from, let's say, the fitness side of things, right? If you go in very intensely, very fast, you're going to burn yourself out and you're going to be fatigued and sore and tired, and you're not going to be inspired to continue. Same concept goes for nutrition. If you get these grand ideas of doing all of these things, cooking all these meals, and you spend hours in the kitchen, you might feel exhausted after that and think, this is way too much work. I have to spend all of this time in the kitchen to achieve my goals. We want to focus on things that can feel consistent and build into our schedule. I think if there's one thing that I can continue to emphasize is to be realistic, right? My realistic is different from Sue's realistic, is different from any person on this call's realistic, right? Maybe you have other people in your house. Maybe you have food preferences. Maybe you have allergies. Maybe you have a busy schedule. Maybe you have fatigue. Maybe you have another chronic condition that makes it difficult to do some of these things. Your consistency is different from my consistency. So finding what that looks like for you. And last but not least, I think we don't do this enough, but practicing self compassion. We need to be flexible, right? That's part of success. We don't want to beat ourselves up if we don't achieve our goals. Sometimes what I say is if you don't achieve your goal, that just means it wasn't the right goal to begin with, right? We just need to be flexible and maybe we need to try the goal in a different way or focus on something totally different at that time. I always tell people to talk to yourself like you would talk to a good friend, right? If they were telling you that they really wanted to eat healthy and then they were kind of beating themselves up for maybe not doing what they had intended, you would probably praise them and say, well, you did all these other things. Like, those are really great. I'm really proud of you for doing that to really build them up. Do the same to yourself. Be compassionate with yourself to help yourself feel more positively about getting back out there and trying again with your goals. Now, I want to talk about something that is, I feel like, near and dear to my heart, which maybe sounds a little bit silly, but I love to use this SMART acronym for setting goals. It is not my acronym. It is actually based out of education. So if we have any teachers here, you've maybe heard this acronym before. But SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Sometimes the A and the R are referenced differently. Sometimes people say attainable and realistic. Same kind of words, right? These are the things we want to think about when we are setting a goal. I hear often goals that are maybe lofty and they don't necessarily have specificity to them, which is great, but SMART goals help to turn vague intentions into clear actions. So here are two examples. So let's say before SMART goals, right? Before you logged on today, you said, I want to eat healthier. That's a great goal. How do you do that, right? What does that mean to eat healthier? Setting a SMART goal would look something like this. Instead of saying, I want to eat healthier, you would be specific and say, I will add a fruit or a vegetable to lunch at least 4 days per week for the next month. Now, you might look at that and say, wow, that's a big goal. That might not be your SMART goal, but I want you guys to get in this mindset because, again, we're going to be doing a little bit of practice with this together. So, if you are thinking right now, my goal is I want to eat healthier, my goal is I want to eat more fruit, my goal is I want to have more plant foods in my diet, think about how you can make that more specific, more measurable, attainable, realistic, time bound. Now, let's move into movement, and Priscilla will do a wonderful job on this too. But an idea or an example is before SMART, you might just say, I'm going to work out every day. If you're not working out every day now or close to it, that might be a big jump. But also, what does I'm going to work out every day look like? Am I going to do Pilates? Am I going to walk? Am I going to strength train? Is it going to be 5 minutes? Is it going to be 30 minutes? So, a SMART goal would be I will walk for 20 minutes after work. I think putting in that realistic aspect of this is when it's going to happen, 3 days per week for the next 4 weeks. I love setting goals in 2 to 4 week periods. That gives you time to come back and reassess. So, some common traps we see when we are setting goals is setting too many at once. Whenever I have a consultation with somebody, I say, let's focus on a maximum of two, maybe three goals before we touch base again. If you're trying to do things in this 2 to 4 week period of time, setting 10 goals is probably not going to happen in that time. If it does, kudos to you. But for most of us, we might not be able to do that. And our brains, while they are so very complex, they're also very simple, right? So if you set 10 goals and you can't do them, you're going to feel very discouraged. But if you set one goal and you can achieve it, you're going to feel positively geared towards setting more goals. I hear a lot in the nutrition space of setting goals based on guilt or pressure, and this next bullet of only focusing on weight or looks. I think those two kind of can go together, but they're also separate. We don't want to set a goal from a negative perspective, guilt or pressure, right? Somebody is telling us we should be losing weight, or somebody is telling us that we need to do any particular thing with our health. Of course, we can follow certain guidelines, maybe by our providers, right? If they recommend you to be more active, but we want to focus on more of the benefit side of things, right? So if, let's say, you are thinking your focus is on weight or looks alone, right? I want to lose weight because I want to look better. I want to feel better in my skin. Think about some alternatives that losing weight would get you, right? Or this guilted or pressured activity would get you. Are you going to have more energy? Are you going to feel more physically fit? Are you going to have more muscle tone? Are you going to have better digestion? Are you going to have better immunity? Think of some of the alternative positives and successes that you will receive from these goals outside of weight and looks alone. And I know I said this before, but sometimes we don't plan for real life, right? Real life happens. This weekend, I'm not going to be home all weekend. So if I had a goal to meal prep on the weekend, well, that's out the window for me, right? We had a snowstorm come through in our area Sunday to Monday, so maybe folks didn't get to go to the grocery store and get the things that they needed for the week. Sometimes you might have meetings after work. Sometimes you might not have time because you get sick. So, knowing that goals need to ebb and flow, and from the jump, goals should be flexible enough that they can incorporate these real life changes. Now, setting yourself up for long term success, I know I said every 2 to 4 weeks, that's when I like to set those goals. So, as you get to that point, ask yourself what's working and what's not. If a goal is not working, adjust it, right? Instead of just outright quitting the goal. We want to shift. But we also want to celebrate small wins. So even if you set two goals and one of them works and one of them doesn't, celebrate that win, right? Find ways to appreciate yourself and give yourself that little joy and that boost. Progress can look like a lot of things. It can be more consistency. It can be better awareness of things like your hunger and your fullness cues. It can be improved energy, better habits. So it can look like a lot of things, right? Success is not a cookie cutter and it is not one size fits all. Now, I know that I said we were going to be a little bit interactive, so I want everybody to either get your phone for notes, get your pen and your paper, and I want you to start thinking, what is one habit that would most support your energy, your mood, or maybe your health at present? Now, as you start to think about that, right, thinking about the habit and what is going to be most supportive of you, try to shift that into what feels like a doable change to get you there, right? It doesn't need to be the impressive one. It doesn't need to be vegetables at every meal. It doesn't need to be exercise 7 days a week. It could just be going on a walk once a week if there's no movement presently. It could be one vegetable if there's no vegetables presently. We want to make it specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, maybe even on your paper, writing down that SMART and filling in each component, right? How is this goal specific? How is it measurable? How is it achievable, relevant, and time bound? And then you can put together the full goal. If the full goal looks like 2 sentences or it looks like 6 words, that is completely fine. We're troubleshooting, right? We're practicing. A tip for setting your SMART goal, and then I'm going to put on a little bit of soft music and I'll let us set goals for maybe like 2 minutes. If the goal wasn't perfect, but you did it for 80% of the time, would it still make a difference? Because that's the reality, is that we might not be doing it 100% of the time. But if we do it 80%, is it still going to make that difference? So I'm going to pull up a little soft music. We will ever so briefly set some goals. So I'll give us about 2 minutes. Let me play some music and then we'll circle back at the end and we'll move on to movement. right? I know most of us are still probably writing our goals. That's okay. We'll still have time. And again, goals do not have to be perfect by any means. And you have time to think about it, right? A goal wasn't built in a day. You weren't built in a day. And so we just want to focus on ways that we can get ourselves from point A to point B effectively. And I want to highlight that I know we're thinking about nutrition and we're thinking about movement today, but this can apply to so many things. This can apply to sleep. It can apply to stress. It can apply to work. It can apply to your home life. So please feel confident setting these goals for yourself in whatever that looks like for you and your health at present. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I hope you all got a little bit about SMART goals and you feel a little bit more impassioned about setting these SMART goals for yourself. Did anybody have any questions on nutrition and goal setting before we hop over to Priscilla's segment?
No, Aubrey, I just loved it. There was such good comments about you sounding exactly like one of our participants, intuitive eating dietitian, which I get the honor of hearing Aubrey often. So yes, she is. She is that, all that and more. So I'm so grateful that you brought all this to our community. I love the fact that you said you set the wrong goal. Oh, I just, when you say that we miss our goals, but maybe you set the wrong goal, it just gives you the opportunity to go back and try again. And that is so key. It feels, it feels approachable. And I just feel like there's so many takeaways here, Aubrey, that it was really lovely. It was great to see. And then we had one that put in the chat, which I am so intrigued about, is just talking about sleep. And I've heard about the cherry juice and trying to do one or more, glasses a week, maybe move it up to five. But then Jennifer, you talked about this magnesium butter. I've never heard of this. I've never heard of magnesium butter because I have trouble with my calves as well. Like I'll get some, calf pains, and I have been taking magnesium, but I never heard of the butter. So, Jennifer, if you want to come off a mute, I'm all ears.
Sure, I actually used this one. It's going to be backward in my camera, but I shared the name of it in the chat.
Nice.
It has a wonderful scent. It has like cedar wood and lavender in it. And when I went on anastrozole, I found my sleep, besides the menopause interruptions to my sleep, the anastrozole did even more um, disruption to my sleep. So I was looking for different ways to improve my sleep. And it was actually my oncologist that suggested the cherry juice for my restless legs. And then I had this and never used it. So I tried it and it makes such a world of
Wow.
difference.
Wow, wow,
So
wow.
I'm like, why not? It's such a
Yeah.
natural thing to try, and it really does improve my ability to fall asleep and stay asleep.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. And I see
Sure.
Anne also had another version, like a magnesium moisturizing oil. I love all these tips. We learn from our community often. So thanks for sharing, both of you. And you're actually speaking to one of my needs. So I'm sort of leading in there
You're adding it to
selfishly.
your cart right now?
Yeah, I'm like, Amazon, here I come. But yeah, thank you for that. Aubrey, that was fantastic. Thank you for allowing our community to have some really good takeaways. And I actually put mine down as well. And it lets you think about how to just approach it and be mindful. And, do you have a target? Do you have an approachable goal? Is it relevant to what you can do in your lifestyle? Right. So when you answer those questions, you just whittle it down, right? So
Yeah.
that you have this wonderful nugget that you can feel like you achieved.
And
And
if you
what else
want
have
some
marked today?
accountability, maybe post it in the chat too, right? And we can all
Yeah,
kind of see each
yeah.
other's goals.
I know. I love that. I did like the oh, it just went out of my head. Darn it. There was something else you had said that I thought was so good. The whole deck was good. We will share that deck, correct?
Yeah,
Aubrey, we'll make sure Rachel can list that when we do the recording. But yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you, Aubrey. I
yeah.
think next we're going to bring on our friend Priscilla. If you want to bring her front and center, that would be wonderful. Priscilla, we have the honor of having her as one of our collaborators and one of our professional providers. Priscilla Fitzpatrick is the founder of Stronger Through Cancer. Hi there, Priscilla. Good to
Hi,
see you as
Sue. Nice
always.
to see you.
Yeah, she's a cancer survivor herself, and she turned her experience into a passion for health and wellness, earning her yoga teacher certification and later becoming certified in group education and cancer fitness. At a local YMCA, she led the Live Strong program, which many of you may be familiar with, for over 6 years, launching then Stronger Through Cancer. After that, it was right before COVID or right during COVID that she launched that. It was an online exercise and wellness community. And I remember that phone call, Priscilla, and I'm so grateful you reached out. And it was definitely designed for people affected by cancer, but you also learned the gaps and you learned how to give somebody a soft landing and what happens after the 12 weeks of Live Strong. Then what do you do, right? And it allows you to have that own routine that you coach our individuals on. So thank you for coming on board tonight. We're grateful to have such a wonderful expert in cancer exercise and also certified by the American Council on Exercise. So Priscilla, thank you for being here.
Wow, thank you, Sue. And I agree with you. Audrey, that was awesome. I took copious notes. Thank you. Um, and one thing I didn't want to forget for those of you that are walking, something that I learned, and I only learned it this past year, so I want to share it. Um, Walking after we eat, if we're going to walk at all, is the best time to walk because it lowers cortisol and reduces glucose uptake, right? So the New York Times actually, this will make you laugh, they actually said that in Sweden it's called a fart walk because it releases gas, right? And so I've been trying to do that more. And when you mentioned the walking, I thought, oh, I want to throw that nugget out there in case you guys didn't know that. So I want to get us moving first, and then we're going to go through a little bit of a slideshow that I created as well. It's not going to be as nice as Aubrey's because I don't have that kind of experience. It was really good. But, it's what I got. So I want you to kind of just like stand up. You don't have to turn on your camera for this, so I'm not even going to know if you're going to do it, but hopefully you will. Because there are a few things that we can do on the regular when we're feeling tight and kind of bleh and fatigued, just to get us up, to kind of get us paying more attention, all right? So we know that we don't want lymphatic fluid to stagnate. We don't want lymphedema, and it can happen at any time. Lymph is throughout our whole body, but there are certain moves that really release it and kind of charge it up. So starting with just arms spread, like your, big capital T, open and close your hands. And you don't have to squeeze those hands hard, especially if you have neuropathy in your fingers and it doesn't feel good to do that. Just a little bit of contraction right there, all right? And then you want to kind of get the arms moving too. And the body loves contraction and lymph fluid loves contraction. So from that circular movement, palms up, just bring your hands to your shoulders. Now, this is not like a magic, lottery ticket where all of a sudden everything's going to change, but this is something that you can kind of stop and do when you're feeling, I like to say, kind of extra hinky and your body's just feeling tight. So that's the arms, right? We can do things all the way down the chain. Lymph likes to store itself in abdominal areas as well, so standing or sitting pelvic tilts are excellent for releasing lymph. Standing is a little more awkward. I can kind of show you from the side. You're kind of tucking your belly, rounding your back, and releasing. Tuck and release. And I just put my fingers on my legs to kind of give myself some support. If that feels particularly yucky in your lower back or you have, serious progression in your lower back, I would only do that in a chair. And then the final thing, I just like to call these leg kicks. Like imagine you've got a bug on your pant leg and you're just trying to get it off. You can do that side to side a few times and then give yourself a nice little kick in the rear, opening up these bigger areas of the body, bigger muscle groups, right? And then you can put the whole thing together. So again, open and close, a little bit of a wave or a circle. You can change the direction. Palms up, tap the shoulders. Good. And then those standing or seated pelvic tilts. Really good. And then kick that bug off your pant leg. Excellent. And then give yourself a kick. Okay. This is just meant to get the body back in fluid, right? So we have a couple different things going on there. You're releasing lymph fluid, which is good, but you're also releasing synovial fluid, also known as motion lotion. Think the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz, right? So if you're very sedentary, you're feeling extra fatigued, and you have things you want to do, or you just don't want to feel like that, get up and do that. And if you don't remember the movements, just move a little bit repeatedly, okay? The body loves repetition. That's really important to know. The body loves repetition. All right, so I'm going to share my screen and take you through what I prepared for you guys. And I will say, just like beautiful Aubrey, I love an acrostic. I'm such a big fan. So I decided to kind of copy you. And rather than SMART, which I know you didn't create it, but I couldn't help it. I came up with START because the first thing I thought of when Aubrey and Aaron and I talked about setting goals for movement was you just have to start. Like, just start. Just start. And if you're like, well, that's really great, Priscilla, but how do I start? I'm going to try and help you, okay? So I want you to use the acrostic for the word START to get going on this. The next slide takes you through it, all right? So the first thing that you have to do when you're setting up to begin a regular exercise routine is you got to schedule it, you guys. From the minute you get diagnosed, you know this feeling. You have to find time in your life for doctor's appointments, for lab work, for surgeries, for recovery. You've got to take the same mentality with your exercise and be a conscious scheduler of movement. So that might mean, you look at the week ahead and you go, well, I've got treatment on Wednesday. I'm going to feel terrible from Wednesday to Friday. Okay, what days of the week can I do it, right? Maybe it's better on Monday and Tuesday. Some people after treatments are on steroids, so they have a flush of energy. Is that the time for you to work out? Schedule it according to then. Also schedule it for the time of the day that feels like you're kind of having the better energy. Some of us are great at working out later in the day. I am not. I like a little bit more of the morning time. But I know when I was dealing with my own cancer and working and had a child, the only time I could work out was in the evening. And I thought, how am I going to do that? All I want to do is sit down. But I had to just start, right? The second thing is, just like Aubrey said, that's brilliant, take it slow. I can't stress this enough. I actually recommend people do less than they think they can because it gives you a confidence boost. It makes you realize, I can actually do more than that. I have more than that in the tank, but it also lessens the chances of you getting injured. And I always use my own experience, okay? This is not conjecture, it is my own experience. I was a runner before my diagnosis. I ran until I was 7.5 months pregnant with my daughter. I ran until people looked at me funny. Let me say it that way. And so when I found out I had cancer and she was only a year old, I wanted to get back into running. That was all I wanted to do. And when I finally thought, I'm going to do it, I rolled my ankle and ended up screwing up tendons and was in a boot for 6 months because I should have taken it slow, but I just went right out and did it, right? The third thing, the A, is act like an exerciser. I really mean this. Act like an exerciser. You're going to put on a cuter shirt than you have that you're wearing around the house. You're going to put on some cute little leggings or sweatpants, anything that feels like, okay, this is my workout stuff, right? And definitely the proper shoes. You're not going to be wearing your slippers. You're not going to be wearing your flip-flops. Like, you don't have to go out and spend a lot of money at all. I'm not recommending that. I'm saying you want to act the part. Like, you don't want to be like, okay, I'm wearing my whatever around the house. Let me stand up and do some stuff. Well, this doesn't feel very good. You want to act the part. That's really key because it's going to change things up here. The R is repeat. Regular exercise requires repetition. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit in a minute about how the importance of moving through things more than one time is going to be sort of the recipe for setting this up as a routine. So it doesn't mean you have to repeat it like 15 times, but you do need to repeat whatever you've done in order for it to become sort of more of an exercise routine than just standing up and doing the moves we just did. The final T is talk yourself up. Again, I love what you said, Aubrey. I wrote it down. Show yourself some compassion. I am a big fan of Post-it notes. You would love my room right now because they're all over the place, including Post-it notes that say, take a nap. But, write things that you need to hear. Like Aubrey suggested, talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. When I first started moving again, I wrote things like, you're stronger than you think. I wrote things like, you can do hard things. Because I had been through a lot. And I was like, I really want to get back to this, but I don't know, it seems too hard. And I was like, well, wait a minute. I can do hard things. So whatever you need to do, to say, or to remind yourself that you are capable of doing this, make sure you're doing that. Remind yourself, visual reminders, what have you. Going forward, I love this image. She just looks amazing. I don't know who this graphics is based on. It's not me, but I think she's fantastic looking. I want you to remember why you're exercising. And I think if I can, opine this to you guys, I think a lot of times women in particular have a history of exercising for very, I don't want to say shallow, but for the wrong reasons, right? I think we can all agree that at some point in our life, we have either done it ourselves or we know people who have been like, I want to lose weight. It's not necessarily a bad reason, but it tends to be a shameful one that we carry a lot of complex feelings around. Or we want to have a better body, or we want to have a beach body, right? I want you to remember that the reason you're exercising, I'm exercising, Sue's exercising, Aubrey's exercising, is because we want to feel better and we want to be able to do ordinary, everyday things. Every one of us should be able to push, pull, lift, and lower. Those are the 4 ranges of motion we need as we age. We need to be able to do them. And so, things like vacuuming can become really hard when you're going through treatments and your joints hurt and your bones have been affected and you're just in a fog, right? Think about like daily activities, picking up your child or your grandchild. This is why we exercise, so that those activities can be easier on us. And then the third reason is we know it's good for us. Nobody out there can argue that it's not. There is not a one of you that can say, well, it's not good for me. I'm not going to do it. It is good for us. It is good for us. It is good for us. The final thing I want to do is just show you an example of how you could set this up for the repeat that I was talking about in the R of start, okay? So let's say you could pick 5 exercises, and if 5 seems like too much, take it slow, pick 2. These are just a broad base, but they hit various muscle groups that are important for you guys to kind of focus on. So one is the overhead press. You've probably seen this in a million different images, right? Somebody standing here like this, showing their muscles or holding weights. All you're doing is pressing up. Well, there's that push motion that we all need, right? Pressing up. So maybe you do a few of those. Maybe you say, I'm going to, again, you want to take it slow so you feel good about yourself. You might say, I'm going to try 3 of those. You do 3 and you're like, well, that was nothing. All right. So then you move on to the next thing. Can you do a bicep curl? Arms by your side, palms and elbows open, contract the muscle, bring it up to the shoulder and down. Up and down, right? Can you do that? Great. Then you could go to a hip bridge. Not everybody can do a hip bridge or should. So I put a little asterisk there. If you know that you shouldn't be lying on your back, lifting your hips, you could substitute that with a lunge. You could substitute it with like just bringing your knees up the way we did a little bit. The chest press, which is very important if you've got some spastic muscle posterior deviation, we call it, from cancer surgery in the chest. You want to have your chest muscles open because it's going to affect your posture, which is going to affect your neck, which is going to affect everything else. So the chest press, think just holding weights here, pushing forward. There's that push again, right? And pulling back. Notice I'm not using weights. You don't have to start out with weights. Don't feel like you have to go buy weights. You may have household items that can act as weights. Could be cans from your pantry, could be water bottles full of water, not empty, right? But it could also just be your own body weight when you first start, because I'm sure your body weight feels kind of heavy sometimes. And then finally, the squat. There is no greater movement than you can do than the squat. It is going to work all of the large muscles of the body. You don't have to be like, oh, I can't get that low. You can start at a quarter squat, right? Very, very, very limited range of motion, eventually building up to getting a little bit lower. But the idea is you do a couple of each of those, and then you repeat that another time, and then you repeat that another time. The third round should be hard. The third round should be hard. Remember that. By the time you get to the third round, it should feel like something's happening, okay? I'm going to stop my share, and I want to come back to looking at well, I'm looking at blank screens, but I want to pose a question to you the same way Aubrey did, because I really think it's important for us to write these things down and then think about them. I think the most important question I got when I first started exercising was, well, do you want to feel good, or do you want to get like really in fit or really in shape? And at the time, my answer was, I want to get in shape, right? But as I started doing it, I realized, no, I just wanted to feel good. I was talking to the wrong person, right? I was talking to a personal trainer who was already in really great shape and had no real knowledge of what I had gone through. So I want to pose to you, how bad do you want to feel good? That's the question. And I want you to write it down. How bad do I want to feel good? And think about the answer. How bad do you want to feel good? I know that most of you I'm feeling emotional because I'm remembering that feeling. I wanted to feel good. So remember why we're exercising. We're not exercising to get some beach body. We're exercising to feel better. And the reality is, it is going to make you feel better. On a scientific level, when we strength train, we are changing things on a cellular level. Whenever we contract skeletal muscle, we are releasing proteins that change us on a cellular level. So we actually do benefit in more ways than we know, not just looking better or more toned, but we will feel better on a cellular level. And there are countless examples of this within my own community, within my members, of people who will come onto the classes and say, I really didn't feel like doing this today. I really don't feel great, but I'm going to get through it. And at the end, they're like, I'm so glad I did this. And I know that feeling. That is the exact feeling I feel every time I work out, because my body is tired, and I'm not that young. I'm 57. So I'm like, yeah, I get it. I still feel that way. That's because it works. So how bad do you want to feel good? I would love anybody to answer it, but hi, Anne. That's everything. So I would really love to hear from you if anybody wanted to answer that question or had the interest in answering the question, even in the chat, or if there's any other questions.
Yeah, and you guys could actually come off your mic. I feel like we have a group that has been engaged and can give each other space to chat. I know that we've had an active chat that just shares so much of what we feel sometimes. I know, Jennifer, I understand completely that feeling of curling in your shoulders. I think it's just a protection for us. Like when you have that breast that have gone through so much impact, and it was something that now I know I have to always think about pulling my shoulders back all the time, and it just gradually happens, and I think it's a protection that we do.
It is, for sure. But it's also, your muscles in that area are very compromised when you've had, I didn't have breast cancer. I had thyroid cancer that metastasized to 15 of my lymph nodes and my vocal cords. So this entire region, you don't realize that you use it for walking, right? I had a little baby picking things up. I had posterior deviation, but I have scoliosis. So I would be so rounded. And at the end of the day, it was like trying to get everything back, And that's a reality. It is also really important to know that it's not about necessarily posture. It's about what you're doing to the organs and to the
Yeah.
heart. So we need to keep that as open as possible.
Yeah, such a good point. Yeah, I feel like a lot of people had some good visuals, feeling powerful and proud, and not to think that your body, like to think of it as you're celebrating your body.
Hmm.
And that's a punishment. So we really had some lovely responses in the chat. And Priscilla, I know that we are honored to have you leading Stronger Through Cancer. You have quite a few members that are here tonight. And I think you might be raising your hand. You want to say anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I have stage 4 metastatic ovarian cancer, so I'm kind of the anomaly. I don't go to the exercise classes because I want to exercise. I go to see these women. And
Mhm.
if being there with all women who understand what you're going through, and Priscilla, who understands what you're going through, there's constantly modifications, or, we have conversations that allow us to work within what our body can and will do while building strength. So I really, really appreciate Unite for Her and Stronger Through Cancer.
Thank you, Anne.
Well, you, Ann.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Anne.
we appreciate you.
You're amazing.
Wonderful. Yeah, good, good. Well, I am grateful that we're all here looking for ways that we can just redefine our goal setting and make it approachable, make us accountable, making sure that the goals are manageable, right? And we set those time limits. So not only do we have SMART, but we have START. Very easy, SMART and START.
Very easy.
I don't think we can go wrong remembering them. So Priscilla,
What a great night. I hope everybody
right.
has at least
Yeah,
one, right? Even idea of a goal. It doesn't have to be a whole
totally
goal
agree.
yet, but one thought.
Yeah, I totally agree. We appreciate the segment. We appreciate the feedback. Again, if there's something that you feel you would love for us to cover in the upcoming year, please put it in the chat or just send us an email at info@uniteforher.org. Yeah,
Absolutely. And we
beautiful.
do, of course, have our February events that we're already thinking of. I can't believe February is next week. I know you already said that, but
I know.
I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah.
We have our Her Speaker series on cardio oncology on the 12th at 6 p.m.
Mhm.
Eastern Time. We have Confident and Radiant Makeup and Lashes, our virtual hangout on the 25th at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then our Ask the Experts on Understanding the Spectrum of Grief and Loss on the 26th at 1 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, very good. And of course, they're all made possible because of our wonderful sponsors. So we can give them a nice, announcement one more time. Our presenting sponsors for Unite for Her Connect, that's what we call our little channel here, is supported by West, Merck, Lilly, Novartis, and Gilead Sciences, with support from our gold sponsors, which is Pfizer, GSK, Daiichi Sankyo, and our supporting sponsors, which is TerraSera Therapeutics and Vericen Oncology. They allow us to bring 36, 40 of these events a year to you and are so eager to always hear the outcomes, look at the experts, the presentations, how many people participated. We track all of that. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a member of our community. We appreciate all of you. All
Thank
right.
you, everybody. I hope
Bye,
everybody has a good
everybody. Thank
night.
you.
Yeah, I think that's a wrap. Everybody have a good night. Thank you all, and we'll see you in February.
Thank you.